2 dawns had come and gone since Varen decreed his judgment. On the 3rd morning, Elara finally understood what fear really felt like. Not of Kael, but of losing him. She woke to sunlight filtering through the guest room window. The bond mark on her wrist pulsed warm against her skin. Steady, alive. She could feel him, not just the pull anymore, but him. His presence somewhere below in the pack house. The faint edge of tension in his chest. The way his wolf paced beneath his skin. 2 days had changed everything. Yesterday they'd hunted together at dawn. She'd felt his pride when her wolf brought down the deer first. Felt his satisfaction when she'd laughed, breathless and alive. The day before, he'd shown her the northern ridge, the place where his parents used to watch the sunrise. He'd held her hand the entire walk back. Small moments, quiet ones. But they'd built something real between the cracks. She pressed her palm over the bond mark and closed her eyes. Today was the last day. Varen would come for his answer. The pack would gather, and she would have to stand in front of all of them and prove… What? That the bond was real? It was. She felt it every time Kael walked into a room. That she'd chosen him? She had. Somewhere between the ravine and the grove and the way he'd looked at her yesterday when she'd smiled. But would it be enough for them? A knock at the door pulled her from her thoughts. "It's me." Mira's voice came through the wood. Elara stood and opened the door. Mira looked tired. Dark circles shadowed her eyes. Her mouth was pressed into a grim line. "It's time," Mira said quietly. "Varen's already at the grounds. The pack's gathering." Ilara's stomach dropped. "Now? It's barely past dawn." "He wants this over." Mira stepped inside and closed the door behind her. "He's been talking all morning, spreading doubt, saying Kael's desperate, that you're using him for protection." The words hit like a slap. Ilara's hands curled into fists. "And what does the pack think?" Mira hesitated. "Some believe him. Others," she exhaled, "others are waiting to see what you do." The weight of it pressed down on Ilara's chest. Hundreds of wolves. All watching. All judging. "Where's Kael?" Elara asked. "With the scouts. Varen brought 12 wolves with him. They're positioned at the border." Mira's voice dropped. "He's making a show of force." Ilara's wolf snarled low in her chest. "He wants Kael to react," Elara said slowly. "Wants him to look unstable." "Exactly." Mira crossed her arms. "So Kael's staying calm, keeping the scouts steady. But Elara," her amber eyes fixed on her, "you need to be ready. Whatever Varen has planned, it won't be fair." Elara nodded. Her pulse hammered against her ribs. She'd run once before. Bolted off that dais because she'd been terrified of being owned. Of being just another piece in someone's political game. But this wasn't that. This was her choice. And she was done running. "I'm ready," Elara said. Mira studied her for a long moment. Then she smiled, small but fierce. "Good, because you're about to walk into a room full of wolves who think they know what's best for you." "Let them think it," Elara said quietly. "They'll learn otherwise." Mira's expression softened. "I'll wait outside. Take your time." The door clicked shut. Elara stood alone in the small room. She moved to the window, looked down at the training grounds below. Wolves were already gathering, moving in tight clusters. Some were laughing. Others looked tense. They were pretending the outcome wasn't already decided in their minds. She wondered if they'd still be laughing when this was over. Her wolf stirred beneath her ribs. Restless, uncertain. It had been quiet these past 2 days, settling into the bond, learning Kael's rhythms. His scent, the way his wolf recognized hers even from a distance. But now it paced, anxious, because it knew what she knew. This wasn't just about proving the bond was real. It was about proving she deserved to stand beside their alpha, that she was strong enough, worthy enough, that she wouldn't run again. Her reflection stared back at her from the glass. Dark eyes, pale skin, the faint shadow of exhaustion beneath her eyes. She looked different than she had 3 days ago, not physically. But something in her expression had changed. She looked settled, like she'd finally stopped fighting herself. The bond mark pulsed again. Warmer this time. She could feel Kael more clearly now. His frustration with the scouts, his careful control, the way he was holding himself together for the pack. For her. Her chest tightened. What if she failed? What if she stood in front of all of them and couldn't find the words? What if Varen twisted everything she said until it sounded like a lie? What if she lost him? The thought made her wolf howl. No, she wouldn't lose him. Not today. Not ever. She'd fought too hard to get here, to understand what the bond meant, to choose him freely. And she'd fight just as hard to keep him. She straightened her shoulders, lifted her chin. Then she turned from the window and walked toward the door. Mira was waiting in the hallway. She handed Elara a dark cloak. It's cold in the main hall. And she hesitated. It'll help you feel less exposed. Elara took it, wrapped it around her shoulders. The weight of it was comforting, grounding. Thank you, she said quietly. Mira nodded. They walked through the pack house in silence, past wolves who stopped to stare, past doorways that led to rooms Elara still didn't know. This place wasn't home yet, but it could be. If she survived today, the main hall loomed ahead. Tall doors, heavy wood. The sound of voices echoed from inside. Hundreds of them. Mira stopped at the entrance. You don't have to prove anything to them, she said softly. Just tell the truth. What if the truth isn't enough? Then they're idiots. Mira's mouth curved into a small smile. But I don't think they are. Elara wanted to believe that. She took a breath, steadied herself. Then she pushed open the doors and stepped inside. The main hall was already packed when she arrived. Wolves lined the walls, filled the benches, stood in clusters near the doorways. The air buzzed with tension and whispered conversations that died the moment Elara stepped inside. Every eye turned to her. She kept her chin high, her shoulders back. She dressed simply. Dark pants, a fitted tunic, boots. Nothing ceremonial. Nothing that screamed bride or Luna, or any title she hadn't chosen yet. Just her. The bond mark pulsed warm beneath her sleeve. Varen stood at the center of the hall, tall and imposing in dark leathers. His black hair was pulled back. His expression was calm, but his eyes were sharp, calculating. He smiled when he saw her. It wasn't kind. Elara, he greeted smoothly. I was beginning to think you wouldn't show. She stopped 10 feet from him. I'm here. So you are. His gaze swept over her, assessing. And your alpha, still hiding behind his scouts? He's protecting his territory, she said evenly, from uninvited guests. A ripple of murmurs moved through the crowd. Varan's smile widened. Protecting, yes. That's what he's calling it. He turned to address the room. Tell me, how many of you believe this bond is real? Silence. Then a few hands rose. Not many. Elara's chest tightened. And how many, Varen continued, believe your alpha is clinging to pride? That he'd rather force a bond than admit he failed? More hands this time. The bond mark flared hot against her skin. Not pain, but awareness. She could feel Kael now. Close. Moving through the pack house toward the hall. He'd felt her distress. The trial was simple, Varen said. 3 days to prove the bond is genuine. To show that she chose him freely. He looked at Elara. So tell us, did you? Every wolf in the room waited. Elara met Varen's gaze. Yes. When? He pressed. Before the ceremony? Or after you realized you had no other option? Her pulse kicked. I chose him when I stopped running. Convenient, Varen said softly. He stepped closer, close enough that she could smell the cold air clinging to his clothes. Let me ask you something, Elara. Do you even remember the first time you met him? She frowned. Of course. Do you? His voice dropped, intimate, like they were the only two in the room. Because from what I hear, you never actually met. Not properly. He scented you at the border 3 months ago. You were in a carriage, hiding. Murmurs rippled through the crowd again. He saw you once, Varen continued, for maybe 10 seconds, and he decided you were his. He tilted his head. Does that sound like fate to you? Or obsession? Elara's throat tightened. He hunted you, Varen said. The word hung in the air. Heavy. Ugly. The night you ran from the ceremony. He chased you through the forest. Cornered you in a ravine. His eyes glittered. And you expect us to believe that's love? The room was silent now. Elara's hands trembled. She curled them into fists. You're twisting it, she said quietly. Am I? Varen spread his hands. Then tell me what really happened. Tell them. She looked around the hall, at the faces watching her. Some curious, others skeptical. A few looked almost sympathetic. He did chase me, she said slowly. Because I ran. And why did you run? Because I was afraid. Of him? Varen finished. No. Her voice came stronger now. Of being owned. Varen's smile was sharp. And yet here you stand, about to bind yourself to him forever. He paused. How is that different? The question hung in the air. Elara's wolf snarled, pushed against her ribs. Because this time, she said, I'm choosing. Are you? Varen stepped closer still. Or are you just choosing the lesser evil? Kael or exile, safety or starvation? His voice dropped. That's not choice, Elara. That's survival. The words hit like a blade. Because part of her wondered if he was right. The doors at the back of the hall opened. Kael stepped inside. The entire room shifted. Wolves straightened, stepped back. The air itself seemed to press down under the weight of his presence. He didn't look at Varen. His eyes found Elara first. Gold-edged and burning, the bond between them flared so bright she gasped. He felt it too. She saw it in the way his jaw tightened, the way his hands flexed at his sides. Then he turned to Varen. You have your answer, Kael said quietly. The bond stands. The trial is over. Varen laughed. I have her word. That's not proof. Then what is? Kael's voice was deadly calm. Varen's smile widened. She just admitted she's choosing survival, not you. He gestured toward Elara. She's afraid of exile, of being alone. Of course she'll take the alpha who offers protection. He paused. But that's not a mate bond. That's a transaction. The crowd murmured agreement. Kael's eyes flashed gold, his wolf rising just beneath his skin. The air around him crackled with barely leashed power. But he didn't move. Elara? He said. His voice was rough. You don't have to answer him. Yes, she does, Varen cut in. If the bond is real, she can defend it. He looked at her. So tell us, Elara, if Kael had nothing to offer you, no pack, no protection, no power, would you still choose him? The question landed like a stone in still water. Elara's pulse hammered. She looked at Kael, saw the tension in his shoulders, the careful control, the fear he was trying to hide. He was afraid she'd say no. Answer honestly. Varen pressed. Because if you lie, the bond will know. She took a breath. I don't know, she said quietly. The room erupted. Wolves shouted. Some in anger. Others in vindication. Varen's smile turned triumphant. Kael went very still. But, Elara continued, her voice cutting through the noise, I don't know, because I've never met that version of him. The shouting died down. She stepped forward, away from Varen, toward Kael. You want me to imagine him without power, she said? Without the pack? Without everything that makes him alpha? She shook her head. I can't, because those things are part of who he is. Convenient, Varen murmured. No, Ilara's voice was firm now. Honest. She looked at Kael. You asked me if I'd choose him if he had nothing to offer. But he's never had nothing, even when I ran. Even when I was terrified and alone in that ravine, he offered me something. Protection, Varen said dismissively. Choice, Elara corrected. He said I could come back, or he'd carry me. But he didn't force me, he didn't command. She swallowed hard. He gave me the option to say no. Kael's expression shifted. Something raw flickered behind his eyes. And the next day, Elara continued, when he took me to the grove, he didn't have to do that. He could have kept me locked in the guest room, could have treated me like a prisoner. Her voice dropped, but he showed me where his parents were buried, told me about his father's expectations, let me see him as more than just an alpha. She took another step forward. So you want to know if I'd choose him without the power? She said. I already have. Every day for the past 3 days I've chosen the man. Not the alpha, not the pack, not the politics. She stopped in front of Kael, close enough to feel the heat radiating off him. I chose him when he let me lead the hunt. When he held my hand on the ridge, when he looked at me like I was more than a bond mark on his wrist. The hall was silent now. Varen's smile had faded. Pretty words, he said flatly. But words aren't proof. Then what is? Elara's voice was sharp. Challenging. The old way, Varen said. The bond test. The crowd erupted again, this time in surprise. Fear. Mira's voice cut through from the doorway. You can't demand that. I can, Varen said. It's written in the old laws. If the bond is questioned, either party can call for the test. Kael stepped forward, placed himself between Varen and Elara. No. No, Varen's eyebrow arched. You refuse? I won't put her through that. Then you forfeit the trial. Varen's voice was cold, final. And she forfeits her place here. The words landed like a death sentence. Elara's hand touched Kael's arm. What's the bond test? He didn't look at her. His eyes stayed locked on Varen. It's ancient, dangerous. It forces the bond open, makes you vulnerable to each other in ways that... His jaw clenched. It can break people. But it proves the bond is real, Varen said smoothly. If you survive, Elara's stomach dropped. And if we don't, then it was never meant to be. Varen spread his hands. Simple. Kael's growl was low, deadly. You want to watch her break? Is that it? I want to know the truth. Varen's voice was calm, reasonable. As does everyone here. He looked around the room. How many of you want to see proof? Real proof? Hands rose. More than half the room. Elara's chest tightened. She looked at the faces around her. Wolves she'd never met. Wolves who would decide her fate based on a test she didn't understand. I'll do it, she said. Kael spun toward her. No. I'll do it, she repeated, louder this time. If that's what it takes to prove the bond is real, then I'll do it. His eyes were wild, gold bleeding through completely now. Elara, you don't understand what you're agreeing to. Then explain it to me. He stared at her. The bond between them pulsed hot and desperate. Later, he said finally. His voice was hoarse. I'll explain later. There is no later, Varen said. The test happens now, or the trial ends. An elder stepped forward from the crowd, old and bent. His staff struck the stone floor with a hollow thud. "The bond test is ancient," he said. His voice carried through the hall. "It requires truth, vulnerability, absolute trust." He looked between Kael and Elara. "You will enter the circle. You will not speak. You will not touch." Alara's throat tightened. "The bond will ask questions," the elder continued. "You will answer, not with words, but with feeling, with memory, with the truth of what lives between you." His expression was grim. "And if you lie, even once, the bond will shatter, permanently." The room went silent. "And if we pass?" Kael asked. His voice was flat. The elder's gaze was steady. "Then no one will question your claim again," Varen stepped forward. "And if you fail, your claim to her ends. The bond is declared false." "She leaves with me." Kael's entire body went rigid. "Over my dead body." "That can be arranged," Varen said softly. The air crackled with tension. Wolves around the room shifted nervously. Some moved toward the exits. Others pressed closer. Alara's hand tightened on Kael's arm. "Stop!" He looked down at her. The fury in his eyes was barely contained. "We'll do the test," she said quietly, "and we'll pass." "You don't know that?" "I do." She held his gaze. "Because I trust you." Something in his expression cracked. "I don't deserve that." "Maybe not." She smiled faintly. "But you have it anyway." For a moment they just stood there. The bond between them pulsed warm and steady, a living thing that connected them deeper than words ever could. Then Kael nodded once. "Together." "Together," she echoed. The elder gestured toward the center of the hall. "Then step into the circle." Elara looked down. A circle had been carved into the stone floor. Ancient runes marked the edges. They glowed faintly in the dim light. She'd never noticed it before. Kael's hand found hers. "No matter what you see in there," he said quietly, "no matter what the bond shows you, remember that I choose you." Her throat closed. "I will." They walked to the edge of the circle together. The moment their feet crossed the boundary, the runes flared to life. Gold light spiraled up from the stone. The air hummed with power. Alara's breath caught. The bond mark on her wrist burned hot. Not pain, but presence. She could feel Kael more clearly now. His heartbeat matched hers. His fear tangled with her own. The elder's voice echoed around them. "The test begins." The world shifted. One moment, Elara was standing in the hall. The next, she was somewhere else, a forest clearing. Moonlight filtered through the branches overhead. The bond mark on her wrist glowed faint and warm. She spun. Kael stood across from her, 10 feet away. His eyes glowed gold in the dark. She opened her mouth to speak. No sound came out. She remembered. No words allowed. The bond pulsed between them. A question formed in her mind. Not words, but feeling. "Do you remember this place?" She looked around. The trees, the moss-covered stones, the trickling sound of water nearby, the ravine. This was where he'd found her that first night. Where she'd fallen. Where he'd caught her wrist and told her she'd come back to the pack house. "Yes," she answered through the bond. "I remember." The scene shifted. Now they stood in the ceremonial hall. The night of the failed ceremony. She was on the dais in her torn white gown. He was below. Jaw clenched, eyes burning with something she hadn't understood then. Another question pulsed through the bond. "What did you feel when you ran?" Her chest tightened. The memory rose sharp and clear. The elders, voices, political, convenient, necessary. The terror of being just another piece moved across a board. She let him feel it all. The fear. The shame. The desperate need to be more than what they decided she was. His emotions flooded back. Not anger like she'd expected. Pain. He'd felt her running as a rejection. A failure. Proof that he wasn't enough. Her throat tightened even though she couldn't speak. The scene shifted again. They were in the grove now. Dawn light spilled through the trees. His parents' stones stood quiet between them. "Why did you bring me here?" The question came from her this time. Kael's answer was immediate. Raw. "Because I wanted you to see me, not the alpha, not the king, just me." The bond pulsed warmer. She sent back her own truth. "That was the moment I started to believe you." The scene shifted faster now, flashing through moments like a heartbeat. The northern ridge, his hand in hers. Question: "Why did you hold my hand?" Answer: "Because I was afraid you'd disappear if I let go." The hunt, her wolf and his running side by side. Question: "When did you know?" Answer: "Here. When you looked back to make sure I was still with you." The guest room, him standing at her door in the middle of the night. Question: "Why did you come?" Answer: "Because I felt you crying through the bond and I couldn't stay away." Each memory, each question, each answer, building something between them that felt stronger than stone. The scene stopped. They stood in darkness now, just the two of them, and the bond glowing between them like a thread of light. One final question formed. Not from the test, from him. "Do you choose me? Not because of what I can give you. Not because you're afraid, but because you want to." Elara's heart hammered. She thought about the past 3 days. The way he'd looked at her in the grove. The way he'd let her lead the hunt. The way he'd trusted her to make her own choice even when it terrified him. She thought about who she'd been 3 days ago. Running. Afraid. Certain she'd never be more than what others needed her to be. And who she was now. Standing in the dark. Choosing. Yes, she sent back. "I choose you. Every day. Every moment. I choose you." The bond exploded with light. Golden, white, and brilliant. It wrapped around them both. Not binding. Not trapping. Joining. She felt him completely now. His fear. His hope. His desperate love for her that he'd never known how to say. And he felt her. Her strength. Her choice. Her trust. The light faded slowly. When it cleared, they were back in the hall. The runes on the floor glowed brilliant gold. Then slowly, they went dark. The elder's staff struck the ground. "The test is complete." Elara swayed. Her legs nearly gave out. Kael caught her before she fell. His arms wrapped around her waist. Solid and warm and real. "I've got you," he murmured against her hair. She pressed her face into his chest and tried to remember how to breathe. Around them the hall was utterly silent. Then someone started clapping. Slow at first. Then others joined. The sound built until it filled the space. Not polite applause, but something genuine. Respect. Acceptance. Elara lifted her head, met Varen's gaze across the room. His expression was cold. Controlled. But something flickered in his eyes. Fury. He bowed his head once. Stiff. Formal. "The bond is proven." He turned and walked toward the doors. His wolves followed without a word. But just before he stepped outside, he looked back. His eyes met Elara's. And she saw the promise there. This wasn't over. The doors closed behind Varen with a hollow thud. The sound echoed through the hall like a final judgment. For a moment, no one moved. Then the crowd began to disperse. Slowly at first. Wolves murmuring to each other. Glancing back at Kael and Elara still standing in the center of the circle. Some approached. offered brief words of congratulation, respectful nods. Others kept their distance. Uncertain, still processing what they'd witnessed, Elara felt all of it through a fog. Her body was exhausted. The bond test had drained something from her she didn't have words for. Kael's arms tightened around her. "Can you walk?" "I think so." "Don't think." "No." She pulled back just enough to look up at him. His eyes were still faintly gold. His jaw was tight. He looked as exhausted as she felt. "I can walk," she said. He didn't let go. "You're shaking." "So are you." His mouth curved, not quite a smile. "Fair point." Mira appeared beside them. "Come on. Both of you need to sit down before you collapse." "I'm fine," Kael said. "You're not." Mira's voice was firm. "Neither of you are. That test—" She shook her head. "I've never seen anyone survive it without breaking." "We didn't break," Elara said quietly. "No." Mira's expression softened. "You didn't." She led them out of the hall, through corridors that felt too bright after the darkness of the bond test, past wolves who stopped to stare but didn't approach. They reached the Alpha's quarters. Mira pushed the door open and gestured inside. "Sit, both of you. I'll bring water." Kael guided Elara to the bed. She sank down onto the edge. Her legs were still trembling. He sat beside her, close enough that their shoulders touched. Neither of them spoke. The bond between them hummed. Quieter now. Settled. But present in a way it hadn't been before. She could feel him. Not just his emotions, but him. His presence. His wolf. The steady rhythm of his heartbeat that matched hers. It was overwhelming, and comforting, and terrifying all at once. "Are you okay?" Kael asked finally. She considered the question. "I don't know. Are you?" "No." The honesty made her smile. "At least we're honest. Always." He looked at her. "What you did in there, standing up to Varen, agreeing to the test, that was stupid?" she offered. "Brave." His voice was rough. Terrifying, but brave. She leaned against him, let her head rest on his shoulder. "I didn't know what else to do. He was twisting everything, making it sound like I was just using you. Were you?" She lifted her head, stared at him. "Do you really think that?" "No," he exhaled. "But I needed to hear you say it wasn't true." "It's not." She turned to face him fully. "Kael, I chose you. In that test. In front of everyone. I chose you." His eyes searched hers. "Even though it scared you?" "Especially because it scared me." She swallowed. "Running is easy. Staying is hard. But I'm done running." Something in his expression cracked open. Relief, joy, fear, all mixed together. "I don't deserve you," he said quietly. "Stop saying that." "It's true." "It's not." Her hand found his, threaded their fingers together. "You've been choosing me since the moment you scented me at that border. You just didn't know how to tell me." His thumb brushed over her knuckles. "I'm still not good at it." "Then I'll teach you." He smiled, a real smile that reached his eyes. "Deal?" Mira returned with water and bread, set both on the small table near the window. "Eat?" she ordered. "Both of you. You look half dead." "We feel half dead," Elara muttered. Mira snorted. "Good. At least you're honest." She paused at the door. "The elders want to speak with you later, about finishing the ceremony." Kael's expression hardened. "Let them wait." "Kael." "I said, let them wait." His voice was steel. "They've had their trial, their proof. They can wait until I'm ready." Mira studied him, then nodded slowly. "I'll tell them." She left. Kael stood and moved to the window, looked out over the grounds below. Elara watched him, saw the tension in his shoulders, the way his hands gripped the windowsill. "What are you thinking?" she asked. "That I'm tired of letting other people dictate my life." She stood, cross to him. "Then don't." He glanced at her. "It's not that simple." "Why not?" "Because I'm the alpha. The pack needs a leader who knows when to say no," she interrupted. "You've spent 8 years doing what the elders wanted, what your father expected, what everyone else demanded." She touched his arm. "Maybe it's time to do what you want." He turned to face her. "And what if what I want isn't what's best for the pack? What do you want?" His jaw worked. For a moment, she thought he wouldn't answer. Then he said, "You. Just you. No ceremony, no politics, no performance." His voice dropped. "I want to take you somewhere quiet and finish this bond the way it should have been finished. Just us." Her heart kicked against her ribs. "Then do that." "The elders can wait," she finished. "You said it yourself." He stared at her. "You're serious?" "Yes. The pack will talk." "Let them." She stepped closer. "Kael, we just survived a bond test that could have killed us. We proved the bond is real in front of everyone who doubted it." Her hand found his chest, rested over his heart. "I think we've earned the right to finish this our way." His hand covered hers. "Where would we go?" "The Grove," she said immediately. "Where you took me that first morning." His eyes flared gold. "You want to complete the bond there?" "Yes." "Why?" "Because that's where I started to believe in us." She held his gaze. "And that's where I want to finish choosing you." For a long moment, he just looked at her. Then slowly, he nodded. "Okay," he said quietly. "The Grove." Relief flooded through her. "When?" "Now." He pulled away, started moving around the room, gathering things. "Before the elders find out, before anyone tries to stop us." She laughed, actually laughed. "Are we really doing this? We're really doing this." He turned to her, held out his hand. "Ready?" She took it. "Ready." They slipped out the side entrance, avoided the main corridors where wolves were still gathered, moved through the pack house like shadows. No one stopped them. No one saw. By the time they reached the tree line, Elara was breathless. Not from exhaustion, from anticipation. Kael led her down the familiar path. Through the trees, past the moss-covered stones and the sound of water trickling nearby. The grove appeared ahead. Sunlight filtered through the oak branches. The wildflowers swayed in the breeze. His parents, stones, stood quiet and strong at the center. It looked different than it had that first morning. Softer somehow. Less haunted. Or maybe she was different. Kael stopped at the edge of the clearing. Turned to face her. "Last chance to change your mind," he said. "I'm not changing my mind." "Elara." "Kael." She stepped closer. "I love you." The words hung in the air between them. His eyes went wide. "What?" "I love you," she repeated, stronger this time. "I didn't plan to say it like this. I didn't even realize it until just now. But it's true." She took a breath. "I love you. Not because you're the alpha, not because of the bond, but because you're you." His throat worked. "You don't have to." "I know I don't have to," she smiled. "I want to." For a moment, he just stared at her. Then he closed the distance between them in 2 strides, cupped her face in his hands. "I love you too," he said roughly. "I've loved you since the garden, since you laughed at the stars, since you looked at me like I was more than just a title." Tears burned her eyes. "Kael, I love you." he repeated. And I'm going to spend the rest of my life proving it. Then he kissed her, soft and slow and full of everything they couldn't say. The bond between them flared bright, not burning, but warm, alive. When they finally broke apart, he rested his forehead against hers. "Ready?" he whispered. "Ready." They walked to the center of the grove together, to the space between his parents' stones, the place where bonds had been completed for generations, where they would complete theirs. The grove felt sacred in the afternoon light. Elara stood between the two stones, her heart hammered against her ribs. Not from fear, from anticipation. This was real. This was happening. Kael faced her. His eyes were soft, vulnerable in a way she'd never seen before. "I don't know how to do this," he admitted quietly. She smiled. "Neither do I." "The ceremony has words, steps, traditions. Then we make our own." He exhaled. Relief flickered across his face. "Yeah? Yeah." She reached for his hands, held them between hers. "Tell me about them. Your parents." He blinked. "What?" "Your parents." She nodded toward the stones. "You brought me here before, told me this was where they bonded. But you never told me about them." His jaw worked. For a moment she thought he'd refuse. Then he looked down at the stones. "My father was complicated, strong, respected, but distant." His voice was quiet. "He led the pack through 2 wars, made alliances that kept us safe. But he was always the alpha first. Father second." Elara squeezed his hands. Waited. "My mother was different," he continued. "Warm, kind. She used to bring me here when I was young. Teach me about the wildflowers. Tell me stories about the old ways." His mouth curved faintly. "She said the grove remembered every bond completed here, every promise made." "Did she love him?" Elara asked softly. "Your father?" "Yes." No hesitation. "But it was hard. Loving someone who couldn't put you first, who always chose duty over everything else." Understanding settled in her chest. "Is that what you're afraid of, becoming him?" His eyes met hers. Raw, honest, every day. "You won't." "You don't know that." "I do." She stepped closer. "Because you've already proven you're different. You walked away from the elders today, chose this moment over their expectations." Her voice dropped. "You chose me." His hands tightened around hers. "I'll always choose you." "Then that's all that matters?" The wind moved through the trees, rustled the wildflowers. The air smelled like earth and pine, and something sweeter beneath it. Like home. "My mother made my father promise something," Kael said suddenly. "The day they completed their bond, here in this grove." "What?" "That he'd remember she was more than just his Luna, that she was the woman he fell in love with first." His voice was rough. "That he'd see her, not just the role, but her." Tears burned Elara's eyes. Did he keep that promise? He tried. Kael's expression was distant, remembering. But the pack always came first. The duty, the expectations. He looked at her. "I don't want that for us." "Then we won't let it be." "How?" She thought for a moment. Then said, "We make our own promise. Right here. Right now." She glanced at the stones. "Your parents completed their bond following tradition. We'll complete ours, following truth." His eyes searched hers. "What kind of promise?" "The kind that matters." She took a breath. "I'll start." She looked down at their joined hands, at the bond mark on her wrist that glowed faint and warm. "I promise," she said quietly, "to tell you the truth, even when it's hard, even when I'm scared." She met his eyes. "I promise to stay, to fight for us instead of running, to choose you every day, not because I have to, but because I want to." Her voice wavered. "And I promise to see you, not just the alpha, but the man who held my hand on the ridge, who showed me the stars, who looked at me like I was worth choosing. A tear slipped free. She didn't wipe it away. That's my promise, she whispered. That's what I vow. Kael's eyes were bright. His throat worked. Then he spoke. I promised to choose you first, he said. His voice was rough, steady. Not the pack, not duty, you. He swallowed. I promise to let you lead when you need to trust your strength instead of always trying to protect you from everything. His hands came up, cupped her face. And I promise to be more than just the alpha with you, to be the man who loves you, who sees you, who knows that you're brave and stubborn and more than I ever deserved. His thumb brushed away her tear. That's my promise. That's what I vow. The bond mark on her wrist flared hot, not painful, just present, alive. She felt it spreading, the half-completed pattern that had been frozen for 3 days suddenly moving again, flowing up her arm like water. Like light, Kael gasped. His own mark was glowing, spreading, completing itself. The patterns met somewhere between them, invisible, but real. The bond sealed, not with ceremony, not with witnesses, not with any tradition but their own, just 2 people standing in a grove, making promises they intended to keep. Elara's legs went weak. Kael caught her, pulled her close. I've got you, he murmured. She pressed her face into his chest, felt his heart hammering against her cheek, felt the bond humming between them, complete now, whole. Is it done? She whispered. It's done? She pulled back, looked up at him. That's it. We're bonded. We're bonded. His smile was soft, real. No elders, no ceremony, just us. The pack will be furious. Let them be. He kissed her forehead. We've given them enough. This moment was ours. She laughed. The sound bubbled up from her chest, free and light and genuine. Kael's eyes crinkled. What? We just completed a mate bond in the middle of the forest with no witnesses and no permission, she grinned. Your father would be horrified. Good. He grinned back. Maybe it's time someone broke tradition. They stood there for a long moment, just holding each other, letting the bond settle between them. The grove was quiet around them, peaceful. Then Elara felt it. A shift in the air, a presence watching. She tensed. Kael. He felt it too. His body went rigid. His eyes scanned the tree line. A figure stepped out from the shadows. Mira. She stood at the edge of the clearing, arms crossed, expression unreadable. How long have you been there? Kael asked. Long enough. Mira's voice was neutral. You two are terrible at sneaking away. Elara's stomach dropped. Are you going to tell the elders? Tell them what? Mira's mouth curved into a small smile. That you completed your bond in private? That you made your own vows? She shrugged. I didn't see anything. Relief flooded through Elara. Kael's shoulders relaxed. Thank you. Don't thank me yet. Mira stepped into the clearing. The elders are looking for you. They want to schedule the ceremony for tomorrow night. There's not going to be a ceremony, Kael said. Mira raised an eyebrow. You're just going to announce you're bonded and expect everyone to accept it? Yes. That's... Mira paused. Considered. Actually kind of brilliant, Elara blinked. It is? Think about it. Mira's eyes gleamed. You already proved the bond in the test. Everyone saw it. Everyone felt it. She gestured between them. If you show up tomorrow already bonded, what can they say? The bond is real. The choice was made. Done. Kael's expression shifted. Understanding. They can't challenge something that's already complete. Exactly. Mira's smile widened. You take away their power to question, to delay, to make demands. She looked at Elara. You become Luna on your terms, not theirs. The word settled in Elara's chest. Heavy, real. Luna. She was Luna now. The thought should have terrified her. 3 days ago it would have. But now, standing in the grove with Kael's hand in hers, and the bond warm between them, it just felt right. Okay, she said quietly. So what do we do? You go back, Mira said. Together, you walk into that pack house bonded and unashamed. You face the elders, and you tell them it's done. And if they refuse to accept it, Kael asked. Mira's expression hardened. Then you remind them that you're the alpha. And the fiche. Bond tests proved you have a true mate. They can accept it or they can leave. Silence fell over the grove. Elara looked at Kael, saw the same determination in his eyes that she felt building in her chest. Together? She asked. Together, he confirmed. They turned to leave. But Elara paused, looked back at the stones one last time. Thank you, she whispered. She didn't know if she was talking to Kael's parents, or the grove itself, or just the moment. But it felt important to say. Then she walked away, hand in hand with Kael, ready to face whatever came next. Because they weren't just Kael and Elara anymore. They were bonded, and nothing could break that. The walk back to the pack house felt different. Elara could feel eyes on them the moment they emerged from the tree line. Wolves training in the yard stopped mid-movement. Conversations died. Everyone stared. They knew. Somehow, they knew. Maybe it was the way Kael held her hand. Maybe it was the bond marks glowing faint beneath their sleeves. Or maybe it was just the way they moved, together. Unified. Bonded. Mira walked slightly behind them. A silent support. A witness. The pack house doors opened before they reached them. 3 elders stood waiting. Their expressions ranged from confused to furious. Alpha, the eldest said. His voice was tight, controlled. We've been looking for you. I know. Kael didn't slow his pace, didn't let go of Elara's hand. We need to talk. Yes, about the ceremony. We've scheduled it for tomorrow evening. The preparations. There won't be a ceremony. The words landed like stones in still water. The eldest elder blinked. Excuse me? The bond is complete. Kael's voice was calm. Final. We finished it. In the grove, an hour ago. Silence. Then chaos. You can't do that. One of the younger elders sputtered. The ceremony is tradition. It's required for the pack to witness. The pack already witnessed, Kael interrupted. In the bond test. They saw the truth. They felt it. He stepped closer. What more do you need? The eldest elder's face had gone pale. This is highly irregular. It's done. Kael's tone left no room for argument. Elara is my mate, my Luna. The bond is sealed. Without permission. Without proper ceremony. The elder's staff struck the ground. This is a violation of what? Kael's voice dropped. Dangerous now. Of laws you wrote to control who I bond with, when I bond, how I lead. His eyes flashed gold. I'm done following rules that serve your fear instead of my pack. The air around them crackled. Wolves in the yard had stopped pretending not to listen. They'd gathered closer, watching. The eldest elder looked around, saw the audience. His expression tightened. Alpha, he said carefully, you must understand. The pack needs stability. Order. Without tradition. The pack needs a leader who makes his own choices. Kael's voice was steel wrapped in silk, not one who asks permission for everything. Elara felt the bond pulse between them, felt his conviction, his certainty. She squeezed his hand, stepped forward. "I understand your concern," she said quietly. All eyes turned to her. "You don't know me. You didn't choose me. And I completed a bond without giving you the chance to approve." The eldest elder's expression softened slightly. "Luna, but I'm not asking for your approval." Her voice was gentle, firm. "I'm asking for your respect." She looked around at the gathered wolves. "I proved the bond in your test. I stood in front of all of you and chose him. Freely, honestly." She turned back to the elders. "So you can accept that I'm Luna now, or you can fight it. But either way, the bond is complete, and I'm not going anywhere." The words hung in the air. The eldest elder stared at her. Something flickered in his expression. Not quite approval, but consideration. "You have spirit," he said finally. "I'll give you that." "She has more than spirit," Mira said from behind them. "She has the bond. The real one. The kind you can't fake or force." She stepped forward. "And she's right. You can accept it or not. But it doesn't change anything." The eldest elder looked between the three of them, then at the wolves gathered around, watching, waiting. Finally, he bowed his head. "Very well. The bond is recognized." His voice was stiff, formal. "Luna Elara, welcome to the pack." It wasn't warm, but it was acceptance. Elara's chest loosened. She hadn't realized how tense she'd been until that moment. "Thank you," she said quietly. The elder nodded, then turned and walked away. The others followed, their backs rigid with disapproval. But they'd bowed. They'd accepted. It was enough. The crowd began to disperse. Some wolves approached, offered brief congratulations. Others kept their distance, still uncertain. But no one challenged them. No one questioned. Kael's hand found the small of her back. Steady, grounding. "Come on," he murmured. "Let's get inside before anyone else decides to have an opinion." She laughed. Actually laughed. The sound felt good, free. They made their way upstairs, to the alpha's quarters that were now theirs. The moment the door closed behind them, Elara sagged against it. "That was terrifying," she breathed. "You were perfect." I was shaking. "So was I." He crossed to her, pulled her into his arms. "But we did it." She wrapped her arms around him, buried her face in his chest. "We did." They stood like that for a long moment, just holding each other, letting the adrenaline fade. Finally, Elara pulled back. "What now?" Kael smiled. "Now we live." "That's it? That's it." He brushed a strand of hair from her face. "No more trials. No more tests. No more proving ourselves to anyone." His thumb traced her cheek. "Just us. Building a life." The simplicity of it made her throat tight. "I like that." "Good." He kissed her forehead. "Because I plan to spend a very long time making you happy." "Just happy?" His eyes gleamed. "Among other things," she laughed, rose up on her toes, kissed him soft and slow. When they broke apart, he rested his forehead against hers. "I love you. I love you too." The bond between them hummed, content, settled, complete. Evening came soft and golden. Elara stood at the window, watched the sun paint the sky in shades of amber and rose. Below, the pack moved through their routines, training, talking, living. She was part of that now. Luna. The word still felt strange, too big, but maybe she'd grow into it. Kael came up behind her, wrapped his arms around her waist, pulled her back against his chest. "What are you thinking?" he asked. "That 3 days ago I was running through these woods. terrified, alone. She leaned into him. And now? And now? Now I'm home. His arms tightened. Yeah, you are. They stood like that as the sun dipped below the ridge, as the first stars began to appear in the darkening sky. Tomorrow, Kael said quietly, we'll start figuring out what comes next, how to lead together, how to make this pack into something better. And tonight? Tonight, his voice dropped, warm against her ear. Tonight, we just exist. No titles, no duties, just us. She turned in his arms, looked up at him. I like that plan. He smiled. I thought you might. He kissed her then, slow and deep and full of promise. The bond between them flared warm, not binding, not trapping, just connecting. Two people who'd chosen each other, who'd fought for each other, who'd proven that love was stronger than politics or tradition or fear. When they finally broke apart, Elara rested her head on his shoulder, watched the stars emerge one by one. Kael? Thank you. For what? For chasing me that first night. She smiled against his shirt. For not giving up when I ran. His hand came up, threaded through her hair. Thank you for stopping. I had to. She pulled back to look at him. You would have chased me forever. Absolutely. No hesitation. To the ends of the earth if I had to. Her chest went tight. I'm glad it didn't come to that. Me too. They moved away from the window, toward the bed, toward rest and peace and the promise of tomorrow. Outside, the pack settled into evening. Fires were lit. Laughter echoed. Life continued. And in the Alpha's quarters, two souls who'd found each other against all odds finally allowed themselves to simply be. No ceremonies, no trials, no proving. Just Kael and Elara. Bonded. Together. Home. Far away, at the northern border, Varen stood on a ridge, watching the pack house lights flicker in the distance. His second approached quietly. They completed the bond. I know. Varen's voice was calm, cold. What now? Varen's eyes narrowed. His smile was sharp as a blade. Now we wait, and we plan. He turned away from the lights. The Alpha thinks he's won. That completing the bond changes everything. Doesn't it? No. Varen's voice dropped. It just made things more interesting. He walked into the darkness, his wolves following like shadows. The game wasn't over. It was just beginning. But in the pack house, Elara didn't feel the threat, didn't sense the danger gathering at their borders. She only felt Kael's arms around her, the steady beat of his heart, the warmth of the bond connecting them. And for tonight, that was enough. Tomorrow would bring its own challenges, its own fights, but they'd face them together, always together. If you enjoyed this story, please like and subscribe for more romance tales. And if you'd like to hear more from Elara and Kael, let me know in the comments. I might just write a part 3. Thank you for listening.